Back here with Sarah Kustok, we're going viral. Sponsored by TGI Fridays. Choose 2 meats plus 2 sides for only $14.99. Check out Packers lineman David Bakhtiari chugging not 1, 2 beers at the Bucks game last night, and then challenging his quarterback Aaron Rodgers to maybe chug but 1. How about getting through 1? Here we go, Aaron. You got this. He's like, watch me. Hold on. Here we go. Ready. Hold on, he says. I got this. Right next to the daughter of the Bucks owner.
Yeah, wearing the Pusha T shirt. Little shot at Drake. I like that.
No, I think the bigger story was that he couldn't make it through a quarter of that beer.
And then Bakhtiari goes for the 3-fer.
I think Christian Yelich got in.
Later in the show.
Later in
the game.
Yep.
Christian Yelich did one.
Listen, I get it. It's hard.
Hey, look at Aaron Rodgers. Says he wants
Make it scotch. He's got this.
Okay.
That's his drink of choice.
Listen,
It doesn't
you
go
have
down
to see. Obviously, you're not a drinker, and Jenna drinks a Michelob Ultra once a month, and so I
don't dismiss that. It is still alcohol. It's the same amount as alcohol,
but my guess is you're not a beer chugger. From what? Because I'm not a beer chugger either. From what I understand,
we'll put it on the
you have to like almost train yourself
to open up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. I wasn't going to give
impressive
display like that, but that is correct.
That's what,
that was impressive.
So Bakhtiari's been in training for this. To be able to down 3 like that
yeah,
quickly.
Don't downplay my drinking, though, because I drank so much that somebody told me you need to stop.
Okay,
so I can tell some drinking stories.
All right, I wasn't trying to put
like you don't get that way for no reason now.
It's a good point.
Put some respect on it.
Put some respect on it. My bad. 29 years and counting.
The people sitting next to those people, those are the more interesting. The owner, the daughter, man, she's out there as owner. I like her. And Bakhtiari, he didn't have a nice selection. Seemed like he got a sister he married to or something next to him. Yeah. Nick, you saw it. Come on, man. That's your brand, dog.
Yeah, you were busy talking.
I didn't see
the antics that happened on the side.
Yeah.
Yes. David Bakhtiari, member of our clientele now, representing him in our firm.
Now, key word there.
Absolutely.
Now.
Didn't know before. He's our first offensive lineman.
Back to our top story. Bucks falling to the Raptors.
He might make the Pro Bowl if you got to vote next year.
105-99, Game 5 last night. They now trail 3-2 in this series. Giannis had 24 points, but seemed to struggle with the Raptors' defense all night. The Greek Freak was asked how he knows Milwaukee won't fold in Game 6 on Saturday. Take a listen.
We're not going to fold, man. Come on, man. We best team in the league, man. We're not going to fold. We're going to go and give everything we got. We're not going to go there. And even they set a great tone, and they come out and hit us in the mouth first. We can't fold. We're going to come back to Milwaukee being pissed. Like, you cannot fold. You got to go out there and give everything you got. If we lose, we lose. Okay, cool. But we're not going to fold as a team, and that's not what we do.
They weren't going to lose 1. They sure as hell weren't going to lose 2.
No
they
way.
sure as hell weren't going to lose 3. Sarah, how surprised are you that they did? They lost 3 in a row now.
I was surprised. I mean, considering the fact they hadn't done it the entire season. We know playoffs are different, but they rolled through the first 2 rounds relatively easily. In this series, in ways, was reminiscent to me of their first-round series last year with Boston, where everyone was taking care of the home court, playing very well. Obviously, a lot of it rests on role players and how their games are able to travel. But for Giannis, I think one of the biggest challenges for him as he continues to develop, we talk about his extended range shooting, his ball handling. I think, too, just getting used to the physicality of trying to get inside, penetrate. Toronto's doing such an excellent job because Kawhi Leonard, of course,
in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
Because it's totally different during the regular season.
It's entirely different, and I think Toronto's done an excellent job. Credit to Kawhi, but in general, they've shown a lot of different looks at Giannis. So whether it's been a 3-2 matchup zone, a 1-2-2 matchup zone, when Kawhi is on him, even if they are hunting the switch and Giannis gets someone else on him, that allows Kawhi to free range a little bit and be there for the help. So I think it's been an excellent game plan by the Raptors and how they've been able to not only protect the paint, because that's priority number 1 for both of these teams, but more than anything, recover out to shooters. And I think for Giannis, it's getting used to when he should be looking for teammates, when he can be more aggressive, and a lot of that decision-making is still a work in progress for him.
Nick Nurse, the coach of Toronto, he saw after games 1 and 2 where they were outplayed in Milwaukee that I'm going to have to make some adjustments. And I was surprised because in this series, I knew of one thing. I knew Giannis couldn't guard Kawhi. I was very, very confident. I was wondering if Milwaukee was going to try to put him on him for a few minutes. I did not expect Nick Nurse to be like, you know something, my best player is also one of the best defenders that we have seen in the NBA. I'm putting him on Giannis. And you can see that the numbers tell in this series change when Nick Nurse made that adjustment. You talked about even when they hung up the switches, their philosophy that Nick Nurse has is we're going to deny. We're going to put a wall of defenders. So they are shoulder to shoulder. Regardless of whoever ends up on Giannis, the other two defenders are very, very close proximity, and they're going to be shoulder to shoulder, not letting him finish at the rim, which we hadn't seen an NBA player finish at the rim like Giannis did this year, going back to the Shaq dominant days. So Nick Nurse, we got to give him a lot of credit. It has affected Giannis and Kawhi's ability to be able to defend him and what he's done in games 3, 4, and 5. Giannis shooting 33% when Kawhi is guarding him. Nick, that's one of the things that you have seen that has turned this series around for the Toronto.
It's turned the series around, and we know the moment this series turned. It was 30 seconds into the double overtime of Game 3 when Giannis Antetokounmpo fouled out. The Bucks went on to lose that overtime 15-9. The Raptors got life. The Raptors then dominated game number 4 and then stole one in game 5. The Bucks thoroughly outplayed Toronto in the first quarter. Should have been up more than 10. We're only up 10. Reggie and C-Web, sometimes the commentary can be a little something, but they were totally right saying last night, you're letting them hang around.
Yes.
You're letting them hang around.
Didn't take advantage of that crowd, the way they played.
Absolutely.
Bledsoe playing amazing coming off after disappearing for the series.
And you were letting Kawhi get some rest. Kawhi in the first 3 quarters only plays 28 minutes, so he's prepared to play the entirety of the fourth quarter. But I want people to understand, even though after 5 games, if the series ain't over, someone's got to be up 3-2, how close this series has been. They've scored the exact same number of points. Both teams have blown the other one out. Both teams have lost a game they led going into the fourth quarter. And then there's that double overtime game, which is as close as a game can come. Toronto ended up winning it. I believe we are going to be here Monday on Memorial Day talking about a Game 7. I believe Toronto is going to go into Milwaukee and win that game. And I believe Giannis, this is big time stuff now for Giannis. The guy that I've said I believe is going to take that title from LeBron as best player in the world. I'm asking him to do something that's a few years above his age. I think he can do it. That is go into Toronto and find a way to solve what has been the unsolvable equation of this series, which is Toronto's half-court defense. They cannot score on the half-court defense in this series. That is on Giannis, and it starts with not being afraid to go to the free throw line. I understand that in the last 3 games, he's shooting like right under 40% from the free throw line. He's got to be okay with going to the line again and again and again because that will be available to him. What's hurting Giannis is he's trying to play around the contact instead of through the contact. He has to play through the contact.
Sarah, Cece made a very interesting point that this Bucks team is resting so much on the laurels of what they did in the regular season. Hey, look at what we did. We had the most wins. We were the best team. It's just going to, seamlessly transition into the postseason, and it's a different beast. They guard you differently, as I learned from you. The defense is different. They scheme differently. Is it a matter of experience of them not just understanding that how big the postseason is compared to what the regular season is?
I think they understand how big it is, but there's a couple things to understand about the postseason. Everything becomes more of a possession game. So execution in the half court and be able to execute a half court offense is something that is of the utmost importance. And also for Milwaukee, you see what they did throughout the course of the regular season. Nick, you probably have those numbers of just the margin of victory and the dominance in so many of the wins. So that also doesn't always give you a ton of repetition of executing down the stretch. How many close games are you in that you're used to those scenarios? There was a play, I think there were a little under a minute left or somewhere around there. There was a handful of possessions and miscues. One, Eric Bledsoe's driving the basket, wide open layup. Instead, he kicks it out to Malcolm Brogdon. Ends up in a turnover possession for Toronto. A couple missed defensive rebounds of where Kawhi shoots a 3 and he's already at the opposite baseline on the opposite side of the court, gets fouled, gets himself to the free throw line. So I think Milwaukee will look back at the film and say, look at this instance, look at this instance. And those are things that I think Milwaukee potentially didn't get enough practice on throughout the course of their season because of their dominance.
Great.
Always fun having you here. Thanks so much. Great insight. As always. Take a break. Coming up, as always, is Kawhi Leonard, the best player left in the playoffs. That's next on First Things First.